Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this week's Quantum Sparks class. This week, we're going to be talking about the architecture of thought. So in real estate, the difference between a smooth, confident transaction and a stressful, chaotic one often comes down to how clients think. Buyers and sellers don't arrive at the table with perfectly structured beliefs. They come with doubts, fears, assumptions, and stories that they've absorbed from friends, family, or media. So, left unchecked, those thoughts can undermine decisions, stall progress, or even collapse a transaction. That's where thought architecture comes in. Just as a builder lays the foundation, frames the structure, and ensures every wall and roof line is in place, an agent must help shape the mental framework of their clients from the very beginning. By calibrating thoughts early, grounding them in facts, reframing limiting beliefs, and guiding perspectives, agents create stability, clarity, and trust. When you master the architecture of thought, you're not just selling homes, you're building the mental house that your clients will live in as they make one of the biggest financial and emotional decisions of their lives. Strong foundations lead to strong outcomes. So today's program, the architecture of thought. As always, a reminder that knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential. To get the power out of knowledge, you have to execute. So make sure to have a pen and paper out today. Take some notes as we go through today's program, and you'll be well poised to execute after the program is over. So we are stuck on my first slide. All right, hold on. I'm going to try to reshare. We're stuck. There we go. All right. Okay, so the quote that we're going to start with is people do not believe ideas. They believe in people who believe in ideas. Because one of the foundations of thought architecture is trust. So we have to make trust at the core of building our real estate relationship with our client, because thought architecture is not possible without the trust first. Again, people do not believe ideas. They believe in people who believe in ideas. So we're going to talk today about the entire building process when it comes to thought. So for example, the foundation is core beliefs and facts. A home stands on its foundation, and thinking stands on core beliefs and facts. Clients often arrive with shaky foundations. They fear the market, they have misinformation from media, or they have an emotional bias. The agent's role is to provide reliable data, comps, interest rates, inventory trends, affordability tools to create a foundation rooted in truth. When the foundation is solid, your clients can make confident decisions. Next, let's talk about the framework. The framework is the mindset and logic. The framing sets the shape of a home just as mindset and logic shape thought. So clients may start with a framework of scarcity, such as, I'll never find the right house, or they might start with inflated expectations, selling a house and they think their house is worth $1 million when it's only worth $750. The agent's role is to reframe the logic, help the client see possibilities, balance emotion with reason, and set realistic but optimistic structures for their decisions. Third, the walls. Walls represent boundaries and context. Walls give structure and define use. In thought, walls provide context. Clients often get overwhelmed chasing every property or panicking over each headline they see come across the news. The interest rates are up, the interest rates are down. The agent's role is to set boundaries. guide the clients to focus on their true needs versus all the distractions that can happen in a real estate transaction. Define the walls of their search criteria or their pricing strategy to keep the client grounded. Next is the roof. The roof is all about the decisions and the actions. A roof protects the whole house. In thought, it represents the actions and the closure, the choices that we make. Without a roof, a house is just not complete. Without action, all this thought architecture is simply wasted. So the agent's role is to bring clients to a decision, to bring them to the ability to make a choice. Whether it's making an offer, setting a list price, or signing contracts, the agents help place the roof on their thought structure so the process can move forward. Next, our doors and windows. Doors and windows represent perspectives and options. So doors open new paths and windows let in the light. Clients often only see one way forward or they fear missing opportunity. The role of the agent is to show the client multiple perspectives. Maybe it's different neighborhoods, maybe it's different financing options. But in the end, our job is about helping create solutions. So our job is to expose the client to creative solutions. By opening doors and windows, we bring in light and possibility into the process. Next, rooms are areas of focus. So each room of a home has a purpose: the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen. In thought, rooms represent focus areas. So clients juggle emotions, their family needs, their budget, their investment potential. Our role as agents is to help walk through the rooms of their thought house, organize their priorities, financial stability, lifestyle needs, future value. So each has a defined space within their thought process. Next, the interior design, which is the stories and emotions. Decor makes a house feel like home. In thought, emotions and stories shape the experience. So clients may tell themselves stories of loss, such as we'll never get a house in this market, or fear, we're going to overpay if we buy in this market. And the agent's role is to redesign the narrative for the client. You can do that by using testimonials, success stories, and emotional framing to replace fear with possibility and confidence. And then last, we have our maintenance and repairs. This is all about self-awareness and reflection. Even the strongest home needs upkeep. Thoughts require ongoing reflection. So clients can backslide into fear or hesitation. One of the key pieces we're going to talk about today for helping with thought architecture is repetition. Because without the repetition, the clients can go backwards and live in fear or hesitate. The agent's role is to reinforce positive beliefs through consistent follow-up, market updates, encouragement, and it's our job to help keep their thought house strong through the entire process of buying or selling a house. So now that we understand how the entire house is built when it comes to thought architecture, it's important for us to understand that we're not just selling homes, we are the thought architects of belief when it comes to the buying and selling process. By guiding clients through the architecture of thought, we can help our clients build a mental structure strong enough to support one of the biggest decisions of their lives. We know buying and selling is all about emotion and rationalization. Decisions are shaped by thought frameworks. And what if we don't do this? Well, there's a cost to unclear beliefs. When the client comes to us and we're not helping them build a thought architecture, then we tend to work with clients who are hesitate or regret or have decision paralysis. We're going to talk about ways that we can build an infrastructure of thoughts with our clients so that we don't have hesitation. We don't have clients that feel regret at making an offer, and that we don't work with clients who are constantly paralyzed by the decision-making process. Our job is not to just advise, but we're going to teach clients thinking models, ways to think throughout the buying and selling process. And again, the big reason for doing this is it helps the client have clarity. With clarity, they can make faster, better, and more confident choices. This is all about shaping the decision journey. Thought precedes action. And we're in the job of helping our clients make action, to complete action. Action produces results, but the action isn't possible without the thoughts that precede those actions. And that's where we step in. Now, I want to be clear about one thing, because we walk a line, and the line is we don't want to manipulate people. That's not what this is about. We want to empower people. So this is not about engineering a belief system. It's about creating an empowered belief system for the client. So let's talk for a second about the difference between engineering a belief for a client and creating an empowered belief system. So engineered beliefs are thought systems deliberately shaped by an outside force to produce a predictable outcome. By the way, we live in a society of engineered beliefs. Many of our thoughts that we have daily have everything to do with how the media is shaping our belief systems, and it's manipulative. We don't want to be that. An empowered belief system is a thought system shaped with the client where they're given tools to think clearly so that they can evaluate options and act with confidence. Engineering a belief is manipulation. We don't want to tell clients what to think. We don't want to prioritize our own self-interest over the clients, and we don't want to use fear or scarcity or pressure to drive compliance, because that's what engineering is. Engineering is about manipulation. We are going to create a system of guidance. We're going to empower clients. We're going to teach our clients how to think differently about the process of buying or selling a house. We're going to help our clients prioritize their own well-being and informed choice. And we're going to use education, transparency, and clarity to drive confidence, not fear. So here's a litmus test you can use to make sure you're not stepping over the line, moving towards manipulation. So ask yourself, am I withholding information to push towards an outcome that I want? If so, you're stepping over the line. That's manipulation. Am I exaggerating urgency to force a decision on somebody? If you're exaggerating urgency to force a decision, you're stepping over the line to manipulation. Does this create clarity for the client or confusion that benefits me? Anything that is creating confusion that benefits you is stepping over the line towards manipulation. If the answers to any of these leans towards self-interest for you, you are probably engineering rather than empowering. And the goal today is to teach you how to help the client, to empower the client, not to manipulate them. So empowering is about transparency, sharing both pros and cons of options, letting clients see the trade-offs, education, using data and visuals and metaphors to expand understanding, and to give our clients options, not directives. We want to present multiple strategies, then recommend, but then let the client be the one that makes the decision. Empowerment will win every time because clients who feel at the end of a transaction that they've been manipulated, they might close that one deal, but they won't trust you to go to you again. But clients who feel empowered become raving fans. They become repeat customers. They become referral sources. Empowerment builds culture. It's scalable because you can repeat it authentically. So, this is all about clarity, not control. An engineered belief system is about seeking control over the people you work with. Empowered belief systems are about helping the client seek clarity. The job of a great agent isn't to decide for clients, but to give them the architecture of thought so that they can decide well. So let's talk about different thought paradigms that can help a client better navigate a home buying or home selling decision. Remember that all of this is built off trust. So clients are going to borrow thought systems from people that they trust. That's why we opened today's program with people do not believe ideas. They believe in people who believe in ideas. So first, in order to be a thought architect, we have to be trustworthy to our clients because trust is the very beginning of this. If you don't have the trust, it's not possible to help with thought architecture. So, couple of things when we're helping build thought paradigms, how do we make them stick? So let's talk about how we get these thought paradigms to stick. And then we're going to talk about some of the thought paradigms, different ways that clients could think that will make their journey more clear for them, make it easier for them to come to a choice or a decision on their transaction. Well, number one, repetition. And there's only a few here. So number one way to help with creating a thought architecture for a client is to repeat. So you might have some certain things that you repeat regularly. In other words, you're going to say the same thing in the scripts when you're talking, in the stories and narratives that you're going to share. You're going to have it built into your listing and buyer presentations and into your buyer and seller guides. In other words, it's not something you say one off and hope that the client runs with it. No, these are pieces that need to be repeated in each part of your dialogue, your stories, your presentations, your marketing. Next, it's important to note that our clients feel first and they rationalize later. That's just humans in general. They're going to feel first, rationalize later. So when you think about how to create or help your client create a thought paradigm that is different than what they already have, you have to help them see the alternative. So, for example, somebody that, let's say, for example, a seller that wants to sell a house, but they want to price it really high. They really, emotionally, they're already done with this house. But on the other hand, they want to price high, which means they're not going to move too quickly. You have to help them get back to the emotion to realize that the alternative is if they're going to price super high, that the alternative is that they're not going to get to the goal that they wish for. So, one of the ways to help build this architecture is to make sure the client can see and feel what the alternative looks like. The other way to help build thought paradigms is to create structures of proof. What does that mean? Stories. So, for example, saying to a client, you have a first time buyer that's really worried about giving all of their savings that they've saved and putting it all into buying a house. So, a story can help shift a thought paradigm, such as my client telling them my client Mary was a first time buyer 6 years ago. She also scraped together every last dime to buy her home. Fast forward 6 years, and she's selling that home today with $100,000 equity to invest in her next property. That shifts a thought paradigm. Also, great questions shift thought paradigms. Great questions can shape a client's own logic. So, for example, saying to your seller who's on a very busy street on a quarter acre and wants to price their house higher than the property that's in a cul-de-sac on 2 acres, just reshaping the question for your client, such as if you were a buyer who had to choose between a home with 2 acres on a cul-de-sac or a quarter acre on a main street, which house would you pay more for? Which one would you lean towards as a buyer? So creating questions is a wonderful way to help build that thought process for the client. And then really important is through this process, thought architecture, you're going to help your client see blind spots. Help them see what they are not considering. So, for example, a seller that cannot understand why they can't get the same price for their selling their house today as their neighbor got 24 months ago. And you could then explain, help them see the blind spot. Well, if we listed this house 24 months ago, the buyer would be paying approximately $2,000 a month on the mortgage. Today, the same buyer would be paying $2,800 a month due to the higher interest rates. That is exposing a blind spot for the client. So here's some thought paradigms for real estate clients. Number one, a thought paradigm is that price is a strategy, not an emotion. Why? Well, sellers often tie their price that they feel the property is worth to their personal attachment. So one of the ways to change this thought paradigm, in that price is a strategy, it's not about the emotions, is to facilitate it by showing comps or days on market stats and absorption rates, showing them how interest rates affect the pool of buyers, which affects the price of their property. Next, market conditions are opportunities, not obstacles. Why? Well, we all know buyers sometimes freeze in a rising rate market, and sellers sometimes hesitate in down markets. So if we can help both sides reframe, because truly in every market, there's opportunity. So using scripts like, hey, in every market, some win and some wait. We'll position you to win now. And then share success stories about clients who won in markets like the one that you are working in. Helping clients see that more than just a roof over their head, the property is also an investment. Why? Because sometimes buyers only see a monthly payment and a roof over their head. So we can facilitate the change in thought paradigm by showing equity building charts, appreciation histories, tax benefits, and telling stories of past clients who grew wealth through owning a property. This is a really important one in that oftentimes new home buyers, first-time home buyers, and first-time home sellers think that it is a real estate agent that, or even the seller, that determines market value. In reality, the market determines the market value. So, for example, talking to a seller who wants to overprice the property, or explaining to a seller that I understand you had another real estate agent that came in and said your property is worth $50,000 more than what I'm seeing. At the end of the day, we're not actually setting the market value. The the market will set the value. So we can't make the market pay more than it wants to, but we can position your home to attract the highest amount of buyers. Negotiation, is it collaboration or is it combat? Here's a way that we can help clients look differently at the art of negotiating a transaction. Instead of looking at it as adversarial, let's help them look at it as a collaboration, that both sides kind of want the same thing. So helping our clients understand that true negotiation is just problem solving. It's not a fight with the other side. It's co-creating a transaction that works for both sides. Next, preparation equals power. Why? Well, clients sometimes undervalue staging, professional photography. Buyers sometimes undervalue pre-approvals. We can facilitate this by using before and after case studies, emphasizing return on investment of preparation, such as doing the home staging, and using metaphors, just like a job interview, the first impressions matter. We can also frame affordability. It's not what you can buy, but what you can comfortably invest monthly. We can frame rent. What would it look like to invest that into your own equity instead? So just changing the thought paradigm for somebody renting. Shaping market beliefs. The market is dynamic, not fixed. So opportunity exists at every interest rate. How many times do we have buyers and sellers that think like, okay, there's no more opportunity now because the rates are no longer 2%. But we in the business realize that that's not true. There's opportunity in every single market, whether the interest rates are high or low, whether it's a buyer market or a seller market, there's always opportunity. The other piece that we can use thought architecture for is normalizing worry. Because when there's a shift in a market, going from a seller's market to a buyer's market, for example, there tends to be a lot of cold feet. People who say, you know what, I've spent the last 2 years putting offers on properties and not getting them. And when they finally get one, they put an offer in on a property and they get it, they're like, whoa. Now they're worried because they got their offer accepted. So one of the things we can do when creating a thought architecture or helping our clients be empowered through thought architecture is helping them normalize worry, because worry is going to pop up in almost every real estate transaction. So one of the things we can do to ensure that our clients get to the closing table is from the very start of the transaction, let's normalize that for them and say, just so you know, there's going to be times throughout this transaction that you're going to stop and say, wait a second, should I wait and not do this right now? We want to normalize that for them so that when it happens, you can say, remember, I told you this was going to happen. This is super normal in a real estate sale. Same with working with sellers. We should also, working with our seller, prepare our sellers for offers below asking price. Let's normalize that from the very beginning through our thought architecture. Right from the beginning, say, guess what? It's very normal in today's market. It's not like the market of 2 years ago where we're going to get tons of different offers. In fact, once a property's been on the market for a couple of weeks, it's super normal to get an offer that's below market value. That way you've at least set an expectation. You've normalized something that is likely going to happen in the transaction. So the whole purpose of thinking about thought architecture in a real estate transaction is to empower the client's thinking, move them from uncertainty to confidence to empowered decision making. And how do we do it? Same things we said a few minutes ago. We're going to repeat, we're going to reinforce these paradigms through our marketing pieces, through the words we use, through the listing presentations. We're going to help them feel the alternatives. So we're going to help them understand through their emotions what the alternative looks like if they don't move forward. We're going to use stories, those narratives. We're going to share real client examples to help make abstract ideas concrete. And then we're going to remove blind spots by using charts, statistics, metaphors, and use questions to guide the client to discover the paradigms we want them to understand. Ask questions like, what matters more, getting the most eyes on your home now or waiting for a maybe buyer later on down the road? So when it comes to building these thought paradigms, it's just like building a house. We have our foundation, the framework, the walls, the roof allows them to make the decisions. The doors offer opportunities and lights. Rooms give them the ability to focus on different thoughts on different areas of the transaction. The interior design is all about the stories and the emotion that goes along with the thoughts. And then, of course, the maintenance and repair all through the transaction, even after the transaction. One of our jobs as agents is to help the client reflect on the thoughts that got them to the decisions that they've made. And with that, as Stephen King says, beliefs are the stories we tell ourselves to stop being afraid. And with that, you can check out all of our past Quantum Sparks classes at laerrealty.com/Quantum Sparks. You can also download the slides there. And if you ever have something you'd love us to cover in a future class, go to laerrealty.com/ask anything. Thanks, everyone.